So, starting the second turn of Junta, the cards have been dealt out. Everybody's got to kind of trim their hands. This fellow, with all his power, has thrown a useful card into the Admiral's hands, which is this dock strike. Now that's a lot of extra troops. It's kind of this, hey, come away from the coalition you're in. You got a pile of money. You're in danger here. Come away from the coalition you're in, and we'll help you. He's not sure which way to go. He's got a really good card to hammer this guy, which is breaking the coalition, forcing, it can only be played against him or himself, forcing him to discard one of his face-up influence cards. However, he's just been given a bonus by this guy, and he's kind of like, well, gee, I don't know. That would be a real slap in the face. Now, they're kind of in this opposed position, but which way do you go? Do you do that? Probably making yourself one heck of an enemy, at least for a little while. Or just discard it. Things are a little more balanced if there are these multiple powers, but this is the other guy with lots and lots of votes on the table. It's a tough call. It's a really tough call. Well, the guy with the labor unions, or the socialists in the labor, gave him a card back in exchange and didn't play that on him. He actually threw out a vote card to trim his hand down, give him the spy in Switzerland, which he used to look at his buddy next to him and see, yes, indeed, we both got the amount that we were promised. No big shock there. But nobody else has. This allows you to look in someone's Swiss bank account and come in a little closer. And, we're not very far in the game. So it's not a terribly valuable card. But it did buy off a turn. This guy didn't want to do that slap in the face type action. Cabinet reshuffle was minimal. He shifted the Air Force out of these big coalition's hands and into the foreign minister's hands. That's kind of a weird situation because the foreign minister has the possibility of a lot of intervention type troops kind of like these. Kind of dangerous here. This guy continues his bribe of the second general. He believes the third general has a good chance of possibly supporting, with this shake-up, the current regime. Here's the thing. When you're established like this guy is, with so much influence, it's tough to start a coup. Not that you can't get a lot of troops, perhaps, but because you've got a lot to lose, and you may not want to shake things up. You've got a lot of votes sitting on the table, and you might be able to win this politically. Guys like these, if they're not going to get support from the government that's sufficient, they're probably not going... they're probably going to desire a coup. And the Minister of War is getting pretty pissed off at this point. He's been ignored. Now, granted, he made an enemy maybe last turn with the competence question, and then, a number of other effects that he's played to try to push the presidency out of this guy's hands. So there's probably a decent amount of animosity there on both sides, even though he was pleasant on the last turn trying to say, hey, let's cut a deal. There's not a lot of certitude that he's a safe fellow. Now we go to the draw money, and both players are going to get to pick how much they want to draw. Chances are, again, they'll make big draws in the hopes of getting a payoff. Big draw indeed. They each drew 2 cards, handing them to the president. Their reasoning behind this? Neither of them deposited money in the bank. There are a lot of people who haven't deposited, including the president. So things are not as safe as maybe they seem. Now, the president's not too thrilled about this. He would rather have piles of money to distribute. But in a sense, he's not terribly in favor of that because he didn't get his money in the bank either. He might end up, he's got some big bills in here. He might end up giving himself a small amount of money by taking one of these, but promising money to others. But the budget has been very, very poor this year. And now we go to that proposal. So after one round of voting, we've got a score of 19 votes in favor, 5 against. I'm using calculators to track the voting because otherwise I will forget, and it's easier than using dice. The only person who voted against, the minister voted strongly against. Most others voted slightly in favor. A vote here, a vote there. The president voted completely in favor. He doesn't want a coup. He wants things to kind of make their way through well. The minister doesn't like it because he would like to have a little bit of cash here in his pocket. But, as he's been told, go make your own money. I don't know how this is going to fall out because there's one big guy, a lot of votes here, that have not been assessed and weren't given any grant of money at all. Well, the budget essentially passed. He was willing to throw his support in, and everybody kind of followed lead. The statement kind of being, well, we want the bank to be open. Now, the guys who have cash in pocket definitely do want the bank to be open. This guy and this guy are the two people with a real question there. Why does he want the bank to be open? Maybe he has a secret political donation to slip in. Maybe he has an assassin who is planning on hitting someone. Hard to tell. Anyway, there's no coup excuse yet, and we're up to the choose locations point. All right, bunches and bunches of assassination attempts being made here. The minister chose to withhold from playing his other assassination. He's going to shoot for this big guy at the nightclub, which he was not at. He was actually at the bank, not surprising. So that's going to go down the drain. Now, this guy chose to go after El Presidente at the bank, but it's the psychotic assassin, so a roll has to be made. 1. It gets resolved, which means the assassin is successful, and El Presidente is dead. Now his assassin's still on the road, which could mean something. But this money is going over into his pocket. Now, El Presidente was burglarizing him, but we haven't gotten to that yet. That money may or may not be here. Coming over to this guy, he didn't do an assassination. He's at his headquarters, which is a funny thing, because he's collecting up money and not really able to deposit it. That's getting problematic. Some people are safe doing that. For example, this guy over here has the monarchist assassin who can block an assassination. So he has some power to be able to avoid things like this. Character assassination against him, if he was at his mistress, he would have to pay a bribe, but he wasn't. He was at his headquarters. So there's no problem there. Over here, he went for him at the bank. This cost $1 million pesos or whatever, which went into the thing, but it is also not effective because he snuck away. Tricky, letting all these assassin cards drain. Of course, we're almost out of decks, so some of them may be coming back, and if he's walking into things with a big pile of money, it's going to be real tough to get away safely. Over here, well, he went for him at the bank. He paid 2 million pesos, which I forgot to put. That's his whole established cash, and he successfully hits him unless he's got a defense. He's got an assassination bribe, which he could play for 2 million pesos, thereby getting rid of any value of his assassination. And now on a 3 through 6, he survives it. He does indeed survive it, so this assassin goes away. But we're beginning to see people kind of playing off each other, and there aren't a lot of these cards that protect you. So usually, if you get hit, you get hit. Now, it's kind of funny. This is the guy who gave the newest weapons to him, but because of his assassination choice, he became sort of the target. Maybe that big pile will go into his hand, and then it'll go into mine. Now we go to El Presidente, and he's going to burglarize this fellow. This was his reaction. The guy's at the bank, so 2 million pesos have to be given to him. He gives him a 3. Now the president's already dead, so it just goes into the bank, or into the pile. Remember, these would get reshuffled if we were playing by the more than 7 player rules, but we're not, and there's no real reason for that, except for, from what I can see, the existence of these powers, which, if they're in the game, should probably invoke that. It doesn't make a lot of difference. It just means that the money that gets spent gets reshuffled back in. Makes the game a little longer. But most of the money that gets shuffled back in will probably end up being small bills for whatever reason, which kind of distorts the game, I think. I'm not sure. Okay. So the psychotic assassin can go away. The burglar can go away. And we've got a coup excuse, which is that the president was killed. And right now, we got to elect ourselves a new presidente. That's the problem. We were actually at banking. Oh, we're at banking. We get to elect the new presidente, and the new presidente will get to keep his office, or one of his offices, as his brother-in-law rule if he gets elected. We have to do that immediately before the banking phase actually hits. Not that anybody can get killed in this. This isn't like Republic of Rome where you can step up and shoot somebody in the middle of a Senate. So it looks like we have a new presidente. The minister knew that he doesn't have the most votes, so he voted for his conservative support neighbor here. That would give him the latest possible assassination position that he could have, because the ministry would be over here. This guy would be the only guy going after him in assassination picks. And that's an important factor in this game, getting the choice of assassins, especially since he's holding one in his hand already. So that's kind of interesting there to have that aspect. But this guy threw in his own votes for himself. This one said, you know, we can't have an uncontested election. I'm not terribly opposed to you because I get to be minister, but I'm going to vote for myself. Let's see where it falls. This guy immediately said, oh, I get to be, you know, the Minister of Internal Security. It's going to be shoot at the bank next turn. I want this. So he voted in favor of the labor side. This general abstained at first. This guy threw in a bunch of votes and said, nah, I want him. Why? Again, it puts him later in the assassination trail. Also, he sees this guy as the opposition, as opposed to this fellow here with the labor votes who had been supporting the former president, and he just did not like that situation. That was enough votes with the church with its 10 big votes to pretty much sway it. We went around another time. This guy, of course, chimed in, oh, yes, I like El Presidente. He's good. So now what we have is El Presidente comes into play over here. Now, the president's going to have an additional amount of force if there is a coup. There is a coup excuse. We don't know whether or not there's going to be one. Who knows? This guy might chime in and do it. But before we do that, we have banking. And a lot of people are sitting at the bank right now. For example, a minister is going to slip a few bucks into his account. No reason not to. Over here, he's at the bank. He only has, oh, I gotta check these, because if you got secret political donations, the minister has money because he played a secret political donation to see if he could fund a assassination attempt. And he gets another card, another big one. And anyway, we're going to go around doing that, and then I'll come back to tell you whether or not there's a coup. Again, no coup. The change of government handled already peacefully. I mean, with murder. It seems like the dynamics have changed a little bit. This guy doesn't feel terribly weak. He's got somebody who kind of owes him an office. Other people, well, there just doesn't seem to be that much support. This guy's not terribly opposed to the current government. He doesn't have a way to slip his money in the bank anyway until after the next turn. He doesn't really want to shake up now. Although there are a lot of people without any money, and that's kind of cool when you're walking into a coup, because you don't have as much to risk. Well, these are really the powers that maybe have some opposition. This guy, well, he's owed a little bit. I kind of trailed this one across, but he has good relations. Essentially, nobody has bad relations with the current president, except the dead president's family. So it looks like we're entering into a period of great optimism in the government. That will certainly decrease. I can't imagine this guy pulling many cards, so he probably will not get one of the money-making cards. We'll see when the cabinet is restacked. One thing we got, all those cards, including a lot of assassins, etc., are getting reshuffled. There's only one card back there. And I don't know. But we haven't seen any kind of real shakeup in this game. This coalition, I think, has more or less kind of disintegrated. I don't think there's a real powerful, yeah, that's it, except maybe El Presidente has kind of formed a coalition with these guys pretty strongly, I'd say. All right, up this one goes.